In this demo, I'm going to be using CloudCasa's Any2Cloud functionality to recover a Kubernetes cluster from my Google Kubernetes Engine or GKE service to a Microsoft Azure Kubernetes service or AKS. So here's a Kubernetes service from one of our developers running in GKE containing a web service that hosts a simple to-do application which consists of a MySQL database residing on a persistent volume. And we want to migrate this application to AKS by performing a backup of the GKE cluster and then doing an any-to-cloud restore within CloudCasa. In the past, we've been able to do this by simply doing a cross-cluster restore, but in my example, I don't have a standby cluster readily available, so I'm going to let CloudCasa automatically provision a cluster for me from scratch while doing this restore. Looking at the services that I have running on this cluster, I can see that my web app is accessible via this external IP, and I can connect to this app via my web browser. And you can see here that this is a fairly simple and straightforward web app that allows me to define tasks and mark them as complete. I can add tasks and submit them to update the database. So what I've done is I've populated this to-do application with some tasks here, which we'll use to help guide us along the way during our demo. The first thing that I'll need to do is register both my Google and Microsoft Cloud accounts, and I can do this in CloudCasa by going into the dashboard, into the configuration tab, under Cloud Accounts, and selecting Add Cloud Account. And here you can see the different cloud accounts that we support natively within CloudCasa, which will not only allow us to extract metadata from the cluster configuration, but also allow us to provision new clusters on the fly in this Any2Cloud restore. I've posted some videos on how to register various cloud accounts below if you'd like more details, but in an effort to save time, I've gone ahead and pre-registered those cloud accounts, as you can see here, for Google and Microsoft. So I'm going to go ahead and check that task off on my to-do list here. Now, by registering both cloud accounts, we can automatically discover those Kubernetes clusters contained within them. And I'm going to need to deploy my CloudCasa agent into my Google Kubernetes cluster containing the application that I want to migrate, which I've done here as well. But once installed, you can see that its status is showing up as active in the CloudCasa console. So I'll go ahead and check off that task in my to-do list as well. Next, I'll need to create and run a backup. So I can do that by going to the CloudCasa dashboard, clicking on Define Backup. Be sure to check out some of the other videos on the channel for creating backups if you want more details on some of the various options, but it's fairly straightforward. You can just provide the backup job with a name. In this case, I'll call it or name it after my cluster and select the cluster that I want to back up here. And since I'm only interested in the to-do app namespace here, I can just simply select that. And because it does contain a MySQL database, I'll go ahead and enable application hooks as well. To perform the migration, I will need to do a snapshot and copy, that is backup and take a local CSI snapshot of my persistent volume, as well as migrate that snapshot to object storage of my choosing, or in AWS or Azure. Now with my application hooks, I can define or use an application hook that is available from a template. So I can select the MySQL application hook as my prescript, and you'll notice that it automatically populates as a postscript here as well. And since I'll run it ad hoc, I won't attach it to a schedule, but I'll just go ahead and select Run Now with a retention period of 7 days. And I can see this application or this backup is now in a running state, and check out the activity log for my progress. I'm going to put the video on pause here for a second and just wait until my backup completes, and we can then proceed with the restore. So now that the backup job has completed, I'll go ahead and mark that task off on my to-do list here. So now that I have a backup of my application, let's restore this to my AKS account. And since I don't have a standby cluster, I'll use Any2Cloud to have CloudCasa instantiate a cluster for me. So I'll go back to my CloudCasa dashboard here and I'll define a new restore job. In this case, I can select one of the recovery points that I can use for my restore here, and then select the resources or the source of the namespace that I want to restore. In this case, I'm only interested in the to-do app located here, and I'll click next. And here under destination, because I want to have CloudCasa instantiate a cluster for me, I'll select create new cluster and choose AKS as my destination here, where I can rename namespaces or remap storage classes. In this case, I'll use a native storage class available within my Azure cloud account. And the destination, of course, is going to be my Microsoft Azure cloud account. And there's another option listed here where I can overwrite the last recovered clustered instance by this job. So if this were a job that I were running on a daily basis, I can use it to overwrite the previous instance of that cluster. So now I can provide my cluster with a name. Let's call this GKE to AKS. And then use a resource group that's available in my Azure account. And then I'll select a region, which in my case will be the Western US. And here I'll also provide my client ID and secret key to provision the cluster. I'll go ahead and specify the VM size. In this case, I want to use standard B2S. And then specify a worker node count of 2, but I can also customize worker nodes to auto scale by providing a minimum, maximum, and desired size here. I won't need to enter in any application hooks, so I'll proceed with next and then give my restore job a name. And finally click restore. So now I can see that my restore job is running, so I'll monitor the activity through the activity log here. And at this point, it's going and creating a new AKS cluster for me. So here I have my Microsoft Azure portal dashboard, and I'll go ahead and click refresh here just to refresh the new cluster instances. So you can see here a cluster is being created, and I'll enter into the details of that cluster. It is now in a creating state. So I'm going to fast forward the video for a couple moments here and describe some of the actions that are occurring while this cluster is being created. So here I can see that my cluster has been created successfully, and now it's deploying the CloudCasa agent within my cluster. So if I jump back to my Azure portal, I can issue a refresh, and the cluster has been successfully created. So I'll go ahead and open up a Azure Cloud Shell, and then query for pods. So here you can see my CloudCasa agent being deployed in a separate namespace, CloudCasa-IO. And once that agent has been deployed, it's going to automatically register itself with my CloudCasa profile and then restore my to-do application. So as you can see, it's now saying my restore is successful and it has restored my persistent volumes and persistent volume claims. So I'll go back to my Cloud Shell here and just check on the status of my to-do app pod, which is still coming online. So I'll just wait a few more seconds here. So I just had to wait for the MySQL database to come online, and now my application is online and running, so we can check the persistent volumes have been restored, along with the persistent volume claims across my to-do app. And you can see my persistent volumes are also bound to the managed CSI native storage class available within Azure. So at this point, I can go back to my to-do app here and check off that item. Finally, I'll go ahead and confirm that my application was restored properly. So I'll jump back to my Cloud Shell here and check out the services that are available within Azure. And here I can see that my to-do app is listening off of this external IP. So I'll go ahead and copy that and paste this here into a new browser tab. And here you'll see that my application is back up and running, migrated from GKE. And you'll notice that two of these tasks are not marked as completed because I had checked them off after taking the backup. So that's a wrap of the Any2Cloud functionality where we can take a Kubernetes application either on-prem or in the cloud and recreate that application while creating a new cluster from scratch to either AKS, GKE, or EKS. Please leave your comments below, and if you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next video.